Let's take a look at solving percents today. Let's represent the ratio 3 out of 5 on this percent model. What do I do to find the percent for 3 out of 5? If I got 3 out of 5 questions. Okay, you can think of dividing it. You're thinking taking 3 divided by 5. Everybody do that, please. And what do you come up with? You come up with 6/10. Now, what is that in relationship to percent? 60%. 60%. Okay, now, if this is a 0%, look at where 60% lies on my percent model. Is it over the halfway mark? Yes. If I got 3 out of 5 on a quiz, did I get over half of the questions correct? Yes, we sure did. So you can kind of in your mind think, hey, you know what? I know this percent should be over halfway mark. And that's what using estimation to kind of just get an idea of how to solve percent problems. Okay, now let's think about finding what percent 7 out of 20 is. What percent is 7 out of 20? What'd you come up with? Okay, 7 out of 20. What did you do to get there? Okay, at least you got 0.35 or 35%. Okay, so it's going to be approximately right here. You know it was going to be less than 1/2. Well, today what we're going to do is we're going to find out what our missing percents are, and we're going to find out in more than one way. Okay, you guys are used to being given the part and the whole, and you could easily change it to a decimal and then on to a percent. But we're going to look at what happens today if you're given the percent amount and need to change it, or need to find what the part is. Why did that? Okay, so the first method that we're going to use is we're going to take the proportion of the percent amount over 100, which we know that the percent always represents out of 100. Is that correct? Equals the part out of the whole. Now, one misconception that we've had in the past is that the part must be smaller than the whole, but that's not the case, especially if you have a percent that's over 100%. Then your part might be larger than your whole. We're not going to work right now using the equation method at this time. Okay, we'll come back and we'll talk about that one later. So let's take a look at that last example we had, where I said if I got 7 out of 20 on a test, what percent was that? Do I know my percent amount? No, so I'm going to put an N. Over 100 equals, which one was the part? 7. I got 7. Out of, what was my total amount? My whole, 20. Okay, then you all know how to solve proportions. Let's do that. What do I do first? 7 times 100. We're going to use cross products. 7 times 100 is how much? 700 equals 20 times N. And then you divide both sides by 20. And what do you come up with? 35. But it is the percent that I'm missing, therefore it is 35%. Now, doing it this way allows you not to have to move that decimal point. Remember, the other way, you had to divide, you got a decimal, and you had to know that you moved your decimal point over. This way, setting up as a proportion like this with your percent amount over 100 helps you eliminate having to worry about moving the decimal point. If you set it up as a proportion like this, you will never have to move your decimal point. Okay, let's take a look at some problems we're going to do together. 22 is what percent of 110? Now, the first thing I look at is, hey, you know what? This is a percent problem. Do they give me the percent in this problem? No. So I'm going to have my N, which is the percent amount, over 100 is equal to, now I have to decide which one's my part and which one's my whole. Here's where the key word of comes into place. Whatever comes after the word of usually represents the whole. Okay, so look for the word of. Do you see it? Oh, right there. So which one comes after of? 110. It is your whole and goes on the bottom. What's the part then? 22. It's kind of like finding the parts to a puzzle. You have to decide which numbers go into the puzzle and where they go. Okay, then what method do I use to solve? Proportions. Okay, now I'm going to ask you, I'm going to let you do a shortcut. When you take 22 times 100, go ahead and punch that in your calculator. Hit equals. And then divide by what goes with your variable, 110, and what do you come up with? So my answer is 20%. Now let's see if that makes sense. Kind of like going back to that little percent bar, little graph I gave you. Is 22 going to be under a half of 110? Is 22 less than half of 110? Okay, so should my percent be less than 50? It should be. It should be less than 50, is it? Yes, it is. Okay, let's try this one. It says, what number is 80% of 500? Okay, what do I tell you to look for first? Is there a percent? Is there a percent? So what do I write over 100 this time? I write 80 over 100 because now I'm given the percent this time. Ooh, I'm not given one of them. How do you know it's a part? Right, I found the word of, and the whole comes after of, so it goes on the bottom. Remember, you're thinking this every time. Percent amount over 100 equals the part over the whole. Okay, so then my end's the part. Now, how do we solve? You use your proportions. 80 times 500. Hit equals. Okay, divide by. No. You've already used 80 times 500. That's why I kind of draw an arrow and almost cross them out. You're going to divide by 100. Check with your partner to see if you agree. What do you come up with? Anybody else get 400? Should be 400. Does 400 out of 500 represent about? Now, do I need a percent sign with this one? Why not? I already have my percent in the problem. So my answer is 400. In other words, I got 400 out of 500 represented 80%. Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to try C on your own. When you get a solution, check with your partner, and I'll come check you. You punched something in wrong. Try it again. You need to do what? And you know what? Do it more than once, JJ. Okay, you're using a calculator. Do it more than once, and I'll save you from. You probably just didn't hit one of the zeros. Oh. Okay, the trick here is I always ask myself first, what I set up, and do I know the proportion? Or excuse me, the percent. Do I know the percent? Yeah, so it's going to be 32 over 100. Remember, I'm thinking this in my mind. Now I have to decide, do I know the part or the whole? Well, I found the word of. Do I know what comes after of? No, so that's where my n goes. My n is the whole. So then where's the 14 and 4/10 go? At the top. Now, what's your little trick to do this in one step using your calculator? Which ones do you multiply first? Right, you take the two that I know and find the product of those first. So punch in 14 and 4/10 times 100. Okay, then hit equals, and then divide by 32. And what'd you get? 45. Now, is 45 a percent? No, it's not a percent. Okay, and the last one, how do you set it up? Do you know the percent? No. So you'll have n over 100 equals, which one comes after of? The 5. So the 6 is your part. Okay, now let's do your cross products. 6 times 100 divided by 5 gives you 120. And what do I need after that? A percent label. Okay, that concludes our lesson on solving basic percent problems.